Chapter 49. Xiao join hands. The moment the curtain of fire was formed, countless thunder rumbled along with a frightening sound of rushing wind. They struck the curtain of fire fiercely with an extremely overbearing force. The curtain of fire immediately began to churn. The scarlet flames on it roared crazily like giant waves, instantly burning the thunder and lightning. The fire lotus underneath the fire curtain also burst out with a dazzling fiery light. Endless flames surged out from within, replenishing the energy that the fire curtain had lost from blocking the lightning bolts. At this moment, Xiaoyan was fully focused on controlling the boundless origin chains that came from the origin chains, constantly supplying energy to the chaos great monarch flame. With the help of Xiaoyan and the fire lotus, the fire curtain that was on the verge of collapsing once again emitted a new vitality. The flames condensed into numerous red lotus flowers. As the lotus flowers spun, countless lightning bolts dissipated in an instant. At the same time, a trace of the golden flame was swallowed by the lotus flowers. As more and more fire lotus flowers formed on the fire curtain, the damage caused by the countless lightning bolts on the fire curtain was gradually reduced. At most, it caused a few ripples to appear on the fire curtain. Although there was only a thin layer left on the fire curtain, the fire lotus underneath it did not suffer any damage. Xiaoyan softly sighed when he saw that the wild attack of the golden lightning dragon was successfully blocked by the fire curtain. After which, he felt a little worried. Just now, he had used up another origin chains in order to block the lightning bolts that filled the sky. Now, there was only one origin chains left. He did not know how he should deal with the subsequent attack. The lightning in the sky gradually reduced when the chaotic thoughts surfaced in Xiaoyan's heart. Occasionally, only one or two lightning would attack the fire curtain without any strength. They would be incinerated into nothingness by the intense high temperature before they could even approach it. They would no longer possess the might they had earlier. Rumble. Another wave of thunder rumbled. After that, dozens of bolts of lightning that were only as thick as an arm whistled down, and struck the fire curtain once again. Xiaoyan only took a glance before he retracted his gaze. This kind of powerful lightning. It couldn't cause any harm to the Xiaoyi. He thought to himself. Xiaoyan turned his gaze to the silent lightning dragon in the distance. At this moment, the lightning dragon was quietly swimming among the clouds. On its huge body, the golden flame that was originally pleasing to the eye seemed to have dimmed considerably. Looking at the tiny lightning dancing on the lightning dragon's body, an indescribable uneasiness suddenly surged up in Xiaoyan's heart. His gaze inadvertently swept across the dozens of lightning bolts that were about to strike the fire curtain. Xiaoyan's pupils abruptly shrunk to the size of pinholes, and a wave of shock and anger instantly surged onto his face. Dozens of lightning bolts silently struck down. In the void that they streaked across, numerous tiny spatial cracks that were difficult to detect with the naked eye silently appeared. Sensing the power of this wave of lightning, Xiaoyan's face couldn't help but tremble. Even the fire curtain at its peak might not be able to withstand this kind of energy that could shatter the space, let alone the thin layer of fire curtain after a series of attacks. Dozens of lightning bolts streaked across the sky like shooting stars. The fire lotus flower on top of the fire curtain seemed to have sensed the powerful force. It kept roaring and rolling. The chaos great monarch flame under the fire curtain had long been locked by the powerful lightning. It was as if it was trapped in an invisible cage, unable to move at all. If it was struck by this attack, it was afraid that the latter would at least be seriously injured. Xiaoyan could only watch helplessly as the dozens of lightning bolts struck towards the fire curtain. He suddenly looked at the fire lotus that was struggling beneath it, and a glimmer of light suddenly flashed in his eyes. In almost an instant, an aura of force reverberated within the barrier. As soon as the ocean-like ferocious aura appeared, the lightning dragon in the distance couldn't help but twist its dragon body a few times. Its entire body emitted brilliant golden flames to resist the invasion of the force. However, Xiaoyan's goal was not to suppress the lightning dragon. He wanted to intimidate the latter a little. A large amount of force turned into a sharp beam that pierced through the sky like a tide. In an instant, it arrived around the fire lotus. In the next moment, the force was like an ancient saber that shook slightly. The fire lotus that was restrained by the aura of thunder and lightning immediately broke free from the invisible cage, and then the fire lotus rushed out like a bright red meteor. Almost at the same time that the fire lotus moved, several golden lightning bolts fiercely struck the fire curtain. They only lasted for an instant. The fire curtain that had consumed nearly 3 of Xiaoyan's origin chains shattered in an uproar, turning into a rain of fire that rained down from the sky. The movement of the fire lotus was still a little slow. Even though it managed to dodge most of the golden lightning, it was still struck by the 2 thumb-sized lightning bolts. Instantly, the lotus body trembled, and the fire was reduced by more than half. It left the area unsteadily. The lightning struck down like the thunder god's fury. It hit a 10,000 feet large lava lake below. In an instant, with a deafening explosion, not a single drop of lava was left in the lava lake. Even the lake was blasted into a bottomless pit. Although he had only been struck by 2 bolts of golden lightning, the fire lotus had suffered a great deal of damage. The golden lightning was the natal lightning of the lightning dragon. It was an attack that could destroy a portion of the origin energy. Its power was beyond imagination. Xiaoyan's heart sank when he saw the fire of the fire lotus quickly dimming. The Chaos Great Monarch Flame was in a disadvantageous position to begin with. Now that it had suffered such a serious injury, it was afraid that it could no longer pose any threat to the lightning dragon. As if to verify Xiaoyan's thoughts, the lightning dragon in the distance let out several excited dragon roars. The lightning and fire on the dragon's body soared into the sky, dispersing the dark clouds in the sky. After that, with a light swing of the dragon's body, it appeared not far away from the fire lotus. Numerous powerful golden flames were mixed with golden lightning. It rushed towards the fire lotus in front of him. Xiaoyan couldn't help but be shocked when he sensed this fierce attack. The remaining origin monarch ki in his body were crazily injected into the fire lotus, trying to block this fierce attack. However, there was only 1 origin chains left. The origin monarch ki provided were just a drop of water in a cart of firewood. Sensing this, Xiaoyan's entire body trembled. With his current weak strength, he was still unable to control his force agilely. Therefore, he had no choice but to watch the tragic scene in front of him. In the golden sea of fire, angry thunder rumbled, roaring as it charged towards the tiny fire lotus in front of him. The fire lotus seemed to have used up all its strength as the flower bud slowly bloomed. A huge fire lotus rapidly condensed behind its back. The fire patterns of the lotus were rippling. It was as if it had been accumulated without being contaminated, and it had a pure and holy luster. The moment the fire lotus was formed, the fire lotus immediately dimmed considerably. The lotus leaves turned into a rain of fire and vanished. Only the heart of the lotus stood there stubbornly and miserably. Xiaoyan clenched his fists tightly. He wasn't excited by the appearance of the fire lotus. As the last strike of the Chaos Great Monarch Flame, he could clearly feel that the fire lotus was still as vulnerable as before in front of the golden sea of fire. Not far away, the joy that the golden lightning dragon couldn't hide clearly proved Xiaoyan's thoughts. Xiaoyan's face was somewhat pale as he watched the fire lotus fly towards the golden sea of fire like a ray of light. He smiled bitterly. He had underestimated the strength of the 3,000 lightning monarch flames. He didn't expect that the one ranked higher than the Chaos Great Monarch Flame would be the former. He actually had such a powerful strength. Roar. Just as the fire lotus flower and the golden sea of flames collided, a dragon's roar that shook the sky suddenly sounded. In the next moment, a black shadow rushed into the sky like a bolt of lightning, turning into a stream of light and entering the fire lotus. The fire lotus trembled slightly, as if it had been reborn. The flame soared into the sky, and in just an instant, it had escaped far away from this place. Swish! The instant the fire lotus escaped, the fiery lotus and the golden sea of fire collided fiercely. The collision between the two didn't sound as expected, and it only lasted for an instant before the fiery lotus quietly vanished, leaving no trace behind. However, the golden sea of fire didn't seem to be affected by any hindrance, and continued to bombard the fire lotus in the distance with great power. Xiao. When Xiaoyan finally reacted, the fire lotus disappeared without a trace. Xiaoyan was overjoyed when he saw that the fire lotus was not only intact, but its strength had also increased by a large margin. The fire lotus buzzed slightly, as if it was responding to Xiaoyan. Then, it faced the golden sea of fire that was sweeping towards it. The lotus leaves of the fire lotus spread out in all directions. Crimson flames that blotted out the sky and covered the earth surged out from the center of the lotus, condensing into a fire dragon that was thousands of feet in size. The fire dragon was lifelike, and its dragon scales were overflowing with flames. Its power was not any weaker than the golden lightning dragon. The fire dragon's cold and ruthless dragon eyes looked at the golden sea of fire, and it roared furiously towards the sky. Then, its dragon body twisted, and it rushed towards the golden sea of fire without hesitation. Its 10,000 feet long dragon body seemed to have pierced through the void, and the red flames scattered in all directions, shattering the space in front of it. The fire dragon was like a 10,000 feet sharp beam. It penetrated the golden sea of fire in an instant. In an instant, the golden flame filled the sky. The red flames on the fire dragon's body soared into the sky and swept away all the golden flames. It didn't slow down at all as it rushed towards the golden lightning dragon. After being shattered by the fire dragon's attack, the golden lightning dragon seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. Its dragon body shook, and the fire of the golden flames surrounding its body was greatly reduced. It was obvious that it had suffered a great injury. Seeing the fire dragon approach, the lightning dragon furiously roared. Surging lightning appeared out of nowhere and violently struck the former. The fire dragon also let out a low cry. Raging flames soared into the sky as the dragon's body swam. It transformed into exquisite fire lotus flowers that received all the lightning. As the lightning and fire lotus flowers were destroyed, the thunder dragon and fire dragon let out heaven-shaking dragon roars. The dragon's body moved. In the next moment, the two 10,000 feet long dragons collided violently. In an instant, the earth shook and countless volcanoes collapsed. A world of lava suddenly collapsed and the sky collapsed. In the distance, Xiao Yan was looking at the flesh of the two enormous dragons. This shocking visual impact caused him to take a long time to regain his senses. The uneasiness in his heart was finally swept away. He looked at the fire lotus in the distance. Waves of dazzling light kept flashing across the latter's body. Xiao Yan could vaguely feel that the atmosphere between the heavens and the earth had become more and more solemn. The Chaos Great Monarch Flame seemed to be preparing some kind of trump card. Gulp. Xiao Yan's throat couldn't help but twitch. The combination of Xiao Yi and Xiao Ao was even stronger than the 3000 Lightning Monarch Flame. This made him pleasantly surprised. Chapter end.